For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
The number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio back from the 2023 PRI Trade Show. What a week it was. So much going on, so many big news stories, a flood of NHRA stories. We're going to talk about them all. I'm Joe Castello, and super excited to have you here on the show as we are in the winter break. It is not an off season. It is a break from racing, but everybody is working, and personalities and personnel are crossing streets out there in Brownsburg and then pushing toolboxes back and forth and all of these things as we get ready for the 2024 Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. That's right. Let's not forget Mission Foods on board, a whole new look, a whole new series for 2024 and beyond. Super excited. And I've been to the grocery store a couple of times already and loading up on those Mission Foods products. Thank you guys for supporting the sport that we love. It was an amazing PRI. And yes, we're going to tackle the controversy that is Tony Stewart driving Top Fuel, the people out there and their rage. The rage about it, right? There was a groundswell of rage. And we're going to get into all of that on the show. And, rage at, was it a gimmick? Was it a marketing ploy? Was it a PR tactic? Was it genuinely one of the biggest announcements in the history of NHRA? We're going to break all that down. But come with your solid information prepared, because we had Monday Motivation for the Patreons where we kind of threw it out there. The Ignition Show was an hour-long discussion about this topic and all the other great stories like Buddy Hull driving for Big Jim Dunn, Jacob McNeil buying a Top Fuel car from Buddy Hull, got Mike Guger going to be the tuner, all kinds of great stuff. Ida Zetterström going to run for the Maynards. So many great and positive stories, but everybody just like they were irked a little bit, and we're going to get into it. We'll see what Alan Reinhart has to say, but let's get the word out there, because at the end of this show, whether you're watching live or in the future, I want to come to a happy place where people can either agree or agree to disagree or disagree, but move forward in a positive way, one way or another, because this was a tremendous moment. So much so that people are still passionately debating what went on in the NHRA at the PRI Trade Show. Now, before we do that, though, I want to tell you about the people who make it possible each week. We talk about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO. I want to start off talking about Marvin Rodak, because this is a great potential Christmas gift. Yes, it's the holidays. It's Christmas. Everybody gets these, baskets of salamis. You're going to get a basket of salamis, right, from the mall. I know you think it's funny, basket of salami. That's why I said it, because it's funny. Baskets of salamis, hashtag. But a pound of coffee might be better. A pound of coffee might be better. You get all the great positives without any of the, kind of weird negatives. 817-924-6821. Pound of coffee, bottle of hot sauce, container of spice rub. Call Marvin or go to the website, rodaxcoffeeandgrills.com. You can get any of these places on our website, WFOradio.com. All right, so I spent PRI in the Total Seal booth. Why are my banners not coming up? Let's go, banners. There we go. So did I miss the Rodax banner? I did. Heiner told me to switch computers. I switched computers, and it, some of it's better, but some of it's worse. typical computers. We need to get Reinhardt on the project here and get him to just smash it, office space it into oblivion. Total Seal, they had a great PRI. I was in the booth. We recorded a bunch of interviews for the Hidden Horsepower podcast. Greg Anderson, Bruno Massel. We had some Gage Herrera. We had some amazing moments in there, and it was great. You can all check those out on the Hidden Horsepower podcast feed or any of the social media for Total Seal. But in the end, it's amazing watching Keith Jones and Kevin and Scott and the whole team from Total Seal answer questions from regular folks who are out there trying to accomplish their goals. Maybe their goal isn't winning a Pro Stock World Championship or putting together Project Pontiac. Maybe it is just work for customers, OE cars, replacements, bracket cars. But everybody had an interesting question. And just seeing the technology there, 0.5 mil, like what? Was great stuff. If you have any questions, just call them. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Hit the website. Folks at Phillips Connect were out there. Justin Ashley out there at the PRI Trade Show. I had a gentleman come up to me. He listens to the show on a regular basis. He says, Joe, I always listen. I work at a tire repair shop. We service fleets of trucks. Can you put me together with the folks at Phillips Connect? We would like to try to sell Phillips Connect to our customers, because we think it would be very helpful to them. Put them together just like that. You can always email me, joe@wforadio.com, if you would like a personalized introduction to the folks at Phillips Connect, if you would like to comment on the show. But phillips-connect.com. Spoke with Justin. Justin is in a great mood. Some interesting things happening for that team as well. And in the end, it's about smart trailer technology. Mr. Epler. They put these things on the road. They keep people safe. They keep them on time. Phillips-connect.com. Go check out their website. Gary Stinnett. Just got off the phone with Gary, talking a little Project Pontiac, but also PRI recap, right? 1 year ago, they were selling cans of Foggett. 1 year later, they're selling pallets of cans of Foggett. That's how this product has taken off in various industries: marine industry, firearm industry, small engine repair industry, but really it's for racing engines. It is a mandatory product if you're going to protect the inside of your engine. And they set up some distributors in overseas. Really amazing to watch the growth of the product in 1 year. And, maybe it's not the sexiest Christmas gift, but if you know the person cares about the inside of their engine, and maybe they're not keeping up on the latest, greatest technology, go to Amazon and type in FOGGIT. It is now an Amazon choice product. Foggett. Go do it. The folks at FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. Paul Lee, major announcement. FTI Parts. FTI Parts is the Instagram handle. You can find them on Twitter, FTI Parts. So imagine you're a transmission guy and you want to use the best of the best stuff, and you don't want to have to wait weeks. They're doing same day shipping. Same day, folks. Same day. So now you can have all the great FTI parts, but your guy can put it together. What an ingenious idea, right? FTIperformance.com, power glides, torque converters, but now FTI parts on board. Great deal. Very happy that those guys are having such great success. Josh Hart. Saw Josh out there. Bernie's Speed Shop. Oh my goodness. Bernie's. Talking to Josh about a couple of things with my own family vehicles, honestly. They sell classic and exotic cars, but they also buy them. So or sell them on consignment, to be more accurate. My apologies. But they have connections to the market that your car fits. And I'm thinking, do I sell it locally and put a little for sale sign on it? Or do I market to the people who know how to market or want to buy it? And that's the difference. BURNYZZ.com. They do frame off restorations. They do anything involved with cars. They sell e-bikes. And we are going there. I'm going to start promoting the Gator Nationals Fan Fest from now. Make your plan to go to Ocala, Florida, and hang out with Josh and all of us before the Gator Nationals. Later on in the show, I'll tell you how to join the Patreon VIP Listener Club and tell you a little bit about Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, another great potential gift, and our great friends at samtech.edu. I did not see Brian Massengill out there at the show. Very unfortunate, right? Very unfortunate. But one guy I did see was this guy, and he made the most of his time. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us now.
Where's your computer?
right? Just straight down, Alan, straight down. Smash.
I'm telling you, it works every single time. It works, but you need a pretty good size. Just
if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, on video, right? No, I don't even know why. This software is amazing and it's a miracle. And dear software gods, I'm not challenging you at all, but this computer is definitely faster. But there's just some things that when you click it, it doesn't click. But now look, now it's all warmed up, I guess. Like the tubes in the old TVs, Alan. Remember that you got to wait for them to warm up. You got to wait for it to warm up.
Or you got to incentivize it to not act up.
They say they're becoming a lot.
Your
like
computer
Skynet.
Your computer can see this.
I think it
so
can.
Now it's going
like Skynet, like the AI. You would think it would be afraid of being smashed. You think it would be being afraid of being smashed. So we'll see. Oh my goodness. I can tell you this. I've got hundreds of comments already, but I got one more thing I want to push out there, like an ask for everybody. The YouTube channel, we stream these shows, but every once in a while I'll post a video. I have countless amazing moments from our lives at the NHRA on this. And I've always been a little leery of sharing them because of NHRA on Fox, and I'm on the starting line and I'm supposed to be working and not taking a video. But at the same time, these are amazing moments. And when Doug Coletta and Leah staged up for the final, I captured it. And I put my view out there on YouTube. And I was so excited because I figured people would love to see the inside of this moment. Of course, the Fox cameras are better cameras, but my view is like you're on the team, you're in the team. You see Doug, him and Connie, their first moment. And I put it out there on YouTube, and the YouTube algorithm says, screw you, Joe. And 200 views, that's ridiculous. It's drag racing history. So I'm going to put it up there. I know we got an audience. A lot of people can watch the show. Please watch this moment, folks. Not right now, but after the show is over. Watch this moment because I think it's a drag racing historical document is what I think. And oh, by the way, I got permission from the social media team to document anything on the starting line. So now my worry, I always got worried, am I doing the right thing? I don't want to get fired, Reinhardt. That's my big worry. I don't want to get told that I can't come back. I like it too much. So
okay. So, you guys can go click on YouTube and watch a video of Joe shirking his duties.
Correct. Later. Listen, that's one thing that I'll tell you everybody behind the scenes. Once they fire the finals, I know I'm probably done. Maybe I'll get a crew chief if there's time. But in that moment, I turn to Race Fan and I just listen to Alan Reinhart, call the final rounds, and just feel it. The experience, because I love that moment. There's no better moment in the world than that. Firing nitro cars, final round, Reinhardt calling it, and me watching one fan or another, one side or another celebrate. And that's what this moment was, except it was one of the greatest single final rounds in history. And now everyone can watch it later. Everyone's saying WFO. All right, Alan, listen, I have in the comment section or in the title of this, I said one of the biggest recaps in NHRA drag racing history, right? We're going to recap PRI. I'm sure you've seen some of the controversy and the angry people that they didn't like the term one of the biggest, right? They didn't read the word one, first of all, because I had a lot of people tell me this is not the biggest announcement in the history of NHRA drag racing. And I said they never claimed that. One of the biggest. And in my imagination, the sample size is 50. So it's definitely one of the 50 biggest, but I also understand it's a bit of a gimmick, a social media gimmick to attract the attention of TMZ and Yahoo News and ESPN and Jayski, who all ran with this story. We can definitely debate smoke driving Top Fuel, but just give me your take on the news and, more importantly, the angry and bitter response from those inside the sport.
I got a couple of emails about it, and my answer to the people that sent me emails saying basically the same thing. That was a big announcement. Everybody knew Tony was going to go Top Fuel racing sooner or later. Who cares? That wasn't a big announcement. Maybe true if you're inside the drag racing world. If you live in the drag racing world. You're used to seeing Tony at the racetrack every week. Okay, he's driving an A fuel car and racing for the McPhillips family and not driving a top fuel car. But you're seeing him there, and Tony switched classes, and he's just stepping up. And so, is that the biggest news ever? Maybe not if you live there. But what if you don't live there? And that's who this was all geared for. You mentioned TMZ. When's the last time TMZ covered anything to do with drag racing? Right? When's the last time ESPN had a story about drag racing that didn't involve either a really scary crash or goes back to, even in the days when ESPN was our broadcast partner, they didn't cover us as far as breaking news, as far as Sports Center, as far as that kind of thing. So if you get outside of the drag racing world, it's huge news. A Hall of Fame driver from another motorsport discipline is going to race in the quickest, fastest cars NHRA has. That's big news. And like I said, if you live inside the NHRA drag racing world, inside the bubble, as it were, maybe you don't see it that way. But for people that live outside in the world, it's huge. If John Force announced tomorrow that he's going to go NASCAR racing at the cup level, you don't think people would go, whoa. And it's that big. I mean, Tony Stewart is a NASCAR Hall of Famer, not a someday going to be there, not a someday might make it. He is a NASCAR Hall of Famer, 3-time champion of the Cup Series, champion of the IndyCar Series, champion in the Outlaws, champion in sprint cars, champion in midget, champion. And he now is going to race full time in the quickest and fastest racing machines on the planet. That's big news. And it's as simple as that. The outside world sees this as a huge thing. And even drag racers, because I guarantee you, fans in Seattle know Tony Stewart's coming to their racetrack this year. He didn't last year. Right. They didn't run alcohol cars there last year. He had other stuff going on, just didn't make it. Some of the other races, and Tony made it to most of them, even if he wasn't racing. But the fans that didn't get a chance to see him last year are going to get to see him this year. The fans at racetracks where they don't run the Lucas Oil Series, they don't run the alcohol cars, are going to get to see Tony race. That's a big deal. And, if you disagree with that, then you can disagree with that. But the reality is, in the world, it is a big deal. And, for those that live inside the little drag racing bubble, it may not seem that way, but in the real world out there, it's huge.
Yeah, I thank you, Alan, for doing it that way. And look, so there's a lot of different angles. And people, the Ignition Show, if you've never listened to the Ignition Show, but the Ignition Show is loaded with a bunch of experienced bracket racers, sportsman racers, people who care about drag racing. Everybody had their opinion, and we spent a lot of time on it. It's so easy to pop out a social media tweet or X or whatever you call them now with your instant reaction. But can it stand up to questioning, right? And that's the thing about those social posts is you never have to respond, or when you do respond, you can take it in a different direction. So my first, and I came back at people. I came back at them, and what is the biggest announcement in the history of NHRA drag racing? Like, what is it? What are a couple? What there's one, nobody can come up with anything, right? Was it Winston? Was it Coke after Winston? Is it Fox Sports? Is it NHRA TV? What is it? I don't know. It's really tough, right? That's one. Number two, what were these people expecting? Like, what were you really expecting? What was it that you wanted it to be? Turns out Steve Torrence is an alien race, is racing at Top Fuel. That's why he won everything, because he's an alien. Oh my gosh. The UAPs and the government have released the fact that Torrence is actually an alien. That's the deal, guys. Major announcement, certainly one of the biggest. The TV contract can't be renegotiated, as I understand, for a considerable amount of time, at least another year. The Mission Foods deal was already announced. It was already out there. We announced that immediately. That was a big, big deal. Here we are at PRI. We want to generate a crowd. We want to generate some buzz. You've got what you just said, this Hall of Fame legend. Kind of irritating that people would diminish Tony Stewart and his, like, they're so used to Tony already. That's just one of those guys, it's like, like he races all the time. And now he's going from super street to super gas. That's not a big deal. I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with just people will always post something negative about whatever it is. Like, there was no announcement that was going to be made that people were going to, in uniformity, say, that's a big announcement. Congratulations, NHRA, for doing a job well done. But in the same moment, they will always say you didn't try hard enough. You didn't do a good enough job. And so, damned if you do, damned if you don't. The bottom line is everybody's talking about it. Everybody talked about it. Everybody had an opinion, good or bad. And there's a saying about that somewhere.
Well, and again, I think it depends on the world that you live in. If you live in the drag racing world, then you might have seen it coming, or again, you might not think that Tony changing classes is that big a deal because you're used to seeing him over here in the drag racing world. But for people that aren't, they now are going to have an opportunity to see him race in the top professional class that NHRA has. And I think that's big news. I mean, I had guys that, we thought they were going to announce they're going back to quarter mile for the nitro cars. That ship sailed a long, long time ago. And for anybody that really thinks that you want them to go back to quarter mile in the nitro cars, send me an email and I will explain to you why you don't want that, because you do not want that.
No, they're not a fan. Okay. Like, again, a guy in the comment section says Reinhardt always positive. And I agree. You want to be positive with people, but sometimes, just like with the computer, there's got to be a stick, carrots and sticks. You can't always coddle people to this, like, oh, it's okay, because they don't respect that. Sometimes people need a little pushback. Okay. If you are still thinking about 1320, you're not a fan. You're not a fan. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants. Maybe you want it, but nobody wants it. The pro race down there in Bradenton, where it has nothing to do with NHRA and it's all the teams doing whatever the heck they want to do. Yeah. How long is that race? 1,000 feet. Why didn't they go 1320 at the pro race? Why aren't they trying to shake it up? Because nobody wants that. That's not a good idea. Slower cars, less forceful cars, less power, less feeling, less intensity. That is going to kill the sport. Anybody who wants 1320 for top fuel and a renewed hundreds of millions of dollars expense for all the teams. Like, what are you thinking, people? What are you thinking? But
if you want to see 1,320 foot racing in February, no problem. We're going to be doing that at Firebird. They're going to be doing that down at No Problem Raceway. We're going to have, there's going to be plenty of 1,320 foot nitro racing at those two events before we even get to Gainesville. So come join us.
Another angle, like, okay, if you're bothered by the gimmick, there's nothing I can say to you, except those gimmicks are happening every day, everywhere you look. People are trying to get the attention. People have said that all the team had to do was announce it and it would have been big news. Yeah, maybe not. This guaranteed ESPN, J-Ski, TMZ, Yahoo News, Fox Sports, we're a partner of them. They rarely ever cover us. They covered us. They called Leah Laura, but they covered us. So I think the proof is in the pudding, the results, the ends justified the means. And you nailed it. The way I got to the same point was this. I asked everyone to take out a sheet of paper and draw a small circle the size of a golf ball on it. And on the inside, write the word in. And then on the outside, write the word out. The people on the inside are the only ones that are maybe annoyed. The people on the outside don't know any better, and they're just interested in the story. Who are we trying to get here? Now, people are like, well, what about, this should have been something to benefit the entire sport. It does. Ticket sales up, ratings up, interest up, media coverage up, all as related to Tony Stewart. And the first time this guy stages up against Doug Coletta, the 94-95 USAC championship battle renewed, except in drag racing at 330 miles an hour. Tony Stewart versus Brittany Force. Tony Stewart versus Antron Brown. The first time we were talking about that, Tony Stewart going into final qualifying, not qualified. He already told us how nervous he was in that moment. It's going to be a totally different thing. That is going to grow. Well, I wanted it to be about television. It wasn't what I wanted. Television is what I want. That lies ahead. I don't want to call people morons because that's wrong, right? Television lies ahead. And Tony Stewart increasing the ratings prior to a negotiation is exactly what you want. but they
Well,
want to
I'm
be
just
negative
curious. Anybody,
inside the circle.
anybody that spent the time, whether you watched the live feed or whether you were at the show and whether you were cruising around and doing this stuff, tell me what announcement came out of there that was bigger.
Right. Yeah. Or in general, like Stan, who is participating at least, and he says the 1,000-foot announcement when it was made was a bigger announcement. Yeah, that was a pretty big announcement. But in the moment, it was done because of a negative occurrence. That's like it was done because we had to do it. And it did mark a significant change. Some people suggested that John Force retiring or announcing a retirement, that would have also been a sad marking. The idea that we're going to have Tony Stewart and John Force on the same tracks in the same weekend in the pro level, to me, that's so positive. So I don't even know what the biggest announcement prior was. Like, and nobody can do it. Like, I've asked people to put it up there, and no one is putting up anything except for Stan. Good job, Stan. Love to see you being positive.
Well, anybody that knows me knows that I am not a nostalgic guy at all. I firmly believe that the good old days start tomorrow. And, I understand people that, well, it's not like it was in the good old days. And it's not like, you're right. It's not. It's way better. And you can't go back and cherry pick. I think a lot of people have kind of rose-colored rearview mirrors. But I will say, I think the biggest ever announcement in the history of Nitro, or in the history of NHRA, was the end of the Nitro ban in 1963.
Okay. There you go. There, 1963, the end of the Nitro ban. So we're going back, half a century to the top.
I'm not saying there haven't been big ones since then. I'm saying that I think that was, if you had the single biggest announcement ever in the history of NHRA, was when they said, okay, boys, bring your Nitro back, after they had the Nitro ban for a couple of years. That's my personal opinion.
And the sidebar to the gimmick was that it causes all this great conversation, this great sports talk list making of thinking deeply about the sport. But most importantly, Jerry Emmons is out there, and he says, Merry Christmas to you and me and everybody. What's up, Jerry?
Merry Christmas, champ.
Jeff Rice says it's winter and people whine more. Yeah. Here, C5 Pete, who is a good commenter, throws out there that the Ida going to JCM was bigger. All right, let's debate. Ida is going to come from Europe. She's a European champion. She's going to come from Europe at an undefined time to run 5 races. You think that's bigger than Tony Stewart running full-time for the championship? Like, you'd have to go another layer deeper, C5 Pete, to explain how a European champion, like, Lex was a European champion and Thomas Natus was a European champion. She's coming to run 5 races and we don't even know which races just yet. I love Ida. She's coming on the show. She's great. I think it's a huge story, the way she's doing it in particular. You really feel like you can make an argument that that's bigger than one of the greatest drivers in the history of auto racing, the modern era, AJ Foyt, switching to drag racing to run for a championship? Like, you really think you can make the argument that that's bigger? I would love to hear you do it. And, tell me you can. I'll send you the link.
If I lived in Sweden, it would be bigger.
Yeah, if you're, and
because
right,
that's
a fan of Ida.
That's my local hero. That's my person that I know. That's my person that I root for.
Yeah.
That is now taking the next step. So if I live in Sweden, that's bigger. I think Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere.
If Ida was, they said she was Finnish. She was Finnish. Like,
okay. Yeah, okay. Well, if I lived in Finland, then. But
yeah, if Ida was my daughter, it would be bigger, right? If I was married to Ida Zetterström, like my wife was going NHRA racing for 5 races, that would be huge to me personally. But in the grand scheme of the large world, no.
If she was coming over to run the full tour and make a championship run, I think that would rival. But and I'm also very, very grateful that she's coming over here, that she's going to get over here. I mean, I will take every single full tilt championship caliber driver and team I can get, even if it's not full time. Come on.
Shawn Reed, full time. Love it.
Yeah. How about Shawn Reed?
Yeah. A lot of really great and positive news. And, people will say, and I'm definitely taking the NHRA Homer defense here, because I saw people saying, like, fire the social media team, and just getting real, like, showing their butts, right? Showing their butts out there on the social media with no, like, zero pushback, pushback.
a little surprised that there wasn't more outcry, that none of those announcements throughout the entire course of the weekend had anything to do with me. After what we talked about last week, I mean, I should have been a part of everything, and really was surprised.
Maybe that's why everyone's mad. They were expecting the Reinhart announcement.
What the hell? I thought that was going to be Reinhart, and apparently that wasn't.
Oh, look at this. C5P. Guess I missed the only 5 races part. Yeah, 5 races that we don't know what they are just yet. Like, it's not even really a full announcement. This is going to happen. And again, Ida is awesome. And it's going to be great for the sport because she's going to do it, from what I understand, with her guys that run in Europe. It's going to be the same crew. She wants to bring them over here. So if you rooted for her there, your team is coming here to compete in the United States. It's not just one driver with a bunch of team that she put together over here. So I think brings an added element. It's not the same level, guys. It's not the same level. You know, this Ohtani, right? $700 million, 10 years. He's going to the Dodgers. I don't see all the fans of baseball complaining that, Jaime Candelaria didn't get the top bill on the free agent acquisition that day. Like, why? You know, he signed a 3-year deal for $45 million, Alan. We could probably run Joe and Alan Racing for a long time on $45 million. How come this Ohtani is getting all the attention? You know, what about the other players in baseball? Why aren't they getting attention from the Major League Baseball media? What's going on? And the answer is...
But there is some of that going on if you're a baseball insider. For those of us that are not baseball insiders, for those of us that are out here living in the racing world, we look at that and go, man, that is big news. But if you don't think that some of the real insiders in baseball are having the same, are having the same internal squabbles because, they're insiders and they know, and this really isn't, or shouldn't have been, or should have been done a different way, then it's news to me because I'm not a baseball insider, and it's big news to me because I'm not a baseball insider.
Billy is trying to argue, and he's making some points about 1964 when Richard Petty went drag racing in one class, and he says that you had to go to the track and you couldn't watch him on TV, and you can see Tony at the SRX and the NASCAR race, but you can't see Tony go 330 miles an hour, and you definitely can't see Tony race against Brittany Force. Like, that's the point. He's doing a different, like, you want to see Tony, go to the web and bring up Google Images and type in Tony Stewart and look at him. That's not what this is about. This is about one of the greatest drivers in driving history taking on a new challenge in a new sport and running for something that he has never run for. And another element, go ahead.
I think that the Richard Petty thing could have been, but their social media guys just completely dropped the ball on that.
Yeah. They should have had an announcement, one of the biggest, especially at the time.
There was nothing on Facebook. There was nothing on Twitter. There was nothing on Twitch. They didn't make memes. They didn't. If Richard Petty's social media team had handled that properly, that still might be the biggest news in drag racing.
I think it might have. That the king, right?
You didn't think of that angle, did you, Joe? The idea
that Billy is arguing about Richard Petty in 1964 compared to that alone. If this is Jim Rome, you just got blasted out of there. No, man. No 1964. Okay. You're in 2023. There's iPhones and social media. And like Alan just said, all of these live stream stuff. You've got who was it going to be that would be announcing that anyway? Walter Cronkite? That's the way it. No, there was no WFO back then, but let's keep going. Because Pete says, don't think I'm being negative. Tony coming to Top Fuel is great, but certainly not a surprise. Let's talk about that. A surprise. You and Tony are close. I am friendly with Tony, and I've learned more about him in the last year than I ever knew before. I wasn't certain that he was going to run for a championship at some point. I was certain at some level that he would run a race at some point. I felt confident that he would want to compete in a Top Fuel dragster at some point. The idea that these people were certain that it's not a surprise that he's running a full season for a championship, I think is also off base. I think that they are wrong and just applying reality to what they thought before. There was no guarantee that he was going to do this.
Well, I could tell you, I was fairly certain it was going to happen at some point. The timetable, I didn't know, but Tony has been pretty adamant about the fact that he doesn't want to race against his wife, and he doesn't want to be the reason that she doesn't win a race or that she doesn't win a championship. But I also know that starting a family is important to both of them, and that at some point in time that was going to happen. So, they don't make stretchable fire suits. So when you get to that point, you have to get out of the car. And I really did believe that at that point, Tony would be the one who jumps in and filled in. Now, what happens, whatever it is, right? 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, when she wants to come back and get back in the car, then what happens, I think, is up in the air. But I really did believe that at some point when Leah got out of the car because they wanted to concentrate on starting a family and doing the stuff, that Tony would be the one to fill in.
Well, that is good. That is good. Let's, there's more stories to talk about, but this is, we can mine this one to the end of time. But I really believe that the NHRA media staff, they did what they're supposed to do. They got everybody talking, some good, some bad. They got the coverage everywhere that they wanted to, and then some. And had they not, I believe in my heart that the negative posters would have posted negatively about something else, that there was going to be a negative post. I went to Twitter. I found the tweet. I found the replies. If it was a negative reply, I went to the person's profile and I checked out their last 3 tweets just as a sample size, right? It didn't take that long. They were only like 18. And almost in uniformity, the people that replied negative to this story had replied negatively to the previous story and the 2 previous before that. Like, they used their Twitter to respond negatively to various topics. And that's really what I think. Now, there is a negative angle, though, and I want to be real. We lose Leah. That's a bummer. Leah is one of our biggest and brightest stars. I love Leah because she fought so hard to get where she is. I don't know if anyone fought harder than she did, endured more business-related hurdles. Get a team closes down, all of those things. And she finished 3rd in the world championship, got down to the final round of the final race against Doug Coletta. The racing god smiled on Doug finally. And to not have Leah out there as a driver, she's going to be there, but not as a driver, is a bit of a bummer. We're gaining a Tony, but we're losing a Leah. And that's going to hurt a little bit also. That's the story. But how do you blame or even mention anything negative when they're going to start a family and they're going to bring in a life in the world and future fan, there'll be junior dragsters, hopefully. Like, that's a positive story for their family.
Or quarter midgets.
Or quarter midgets, right? Ooh. Oh, no, we got to start working already. We got to start working on making that kid a drag racer. We can't fail like Anthony DeCero failed with Colette, right? Where is she? Yeah, she wants to go round racing dirt. She says, I'm going to be on the dirt forever. And Anthony is like, I don't know what happened, man. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. But yeah, we're losing Leah, and that's sad. All right, Firebird Raceway, go. That's awesome, I think. I'll tell you my opinion. But 1 year ago, we were talking about the end of the track, and now it is back to its traditional name, and it's back on the tour.
Yeah, I feel like I wasted a farewell speech, which I was kind of proud of, to tell you the truth. But no, I think it's great. I wish I knew some of the behind the scenes stuff, because I would love to go to some other racetracks that are, have a questionable future or struggling right now and go, okay, here's what you got to do. But I think it's terrific. I love the fact that they're going back to utilizing the Firebird name. I was stunned to see Charlie Allen there at PRI being a part of the announcement that, they wanted to get his blessing to go back, even though it's kind of interesting, because I don't know how many people realize Firebird Lake predates Firebird Raceway. Firebird Lake was there, and it was Firebird Lake long before Charlie Allen came over and built a racetrack in the early 80s. So, the racetrack basically inherited the name. And even after they started calling the complex Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park, it was still Firebird Lake. But I do like the nostalgia part that they're bringing back the name. I like, Casey, I think is going to be a good steward of the place. And, he's got plenty of people there. Chuck Sundstrom has been involved with that racetrack for probably 30 years as a racer and as an official, and as the drag. He was basically the guy that oversaw the drag program for the last few years. Was a big part of keeping the place going. So I think that they've got good people in place. I think they've got good plans in place. And I love the fact that we're not losing a track, and that it's a track that is pretty near and dear to me, not just in a geographic standpoint.
So, like there are always ideas, and then there's the execution of the idea. So I had an idea of going back to NHRA TV and trying to rip the Alan Reinhart wall walk speech for the final time as the salty discharge flowed down your cheeks and the crying and all of that went down, just to relive the moment that maybe saved Firebird Raceway, but didn't do it, right? Like, it's Tuesday. That didn't happen. But, I don't see anybody complaining that we said that was the last race and now it's not, because reality changed. In the moment, it was the last race. And now the race is saved and we're going back. A major market, a market that holds the Super Bowl every few years. The NASCAR Championship is there. Nice hotels, good restaurants, good weather, good people. Always a packed house, if not a sellout. Like, that is a great, great and positive story. And I'm so excited to go back to Firebird Raceway.
I am as well. And it's really not just for drag racers. I mean, they have 4 road courses that are there in this area of the world. If you are a road racer, whether you're, a Corvette person, a BMW person, or Mercedes, or whatever, if you're a road racer, if you're a club racer, if you just like to go out there and do time trial stuff, there's not a lot of places to do it. You were going to lose a racetrack as well. We've still got it. The lake is going to continue on. They're going to continue to hold boat races and do things like that. So that's another great venue. There aren't a whole lot of places out there now that they still can run drag boats. And so it's nice that they're still going to have that venue. And again, I think that, it is great news for Arizona motorsports, period. Drag racing is a part of that, certainly. But Arizona motorsports, it is great news for them, period. And I'm just very, very grateful. It was interesting talking to, or listening to Casey and listening to the announcement, and that, they had their offices cleaned out. It was that done when all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe one more meeting, maybe one more phone call, and then we're able to make this all happen. So I'm really excited for the people that didn't give up, and for the people that kept out there, kept pitching, and kept open. I think, one of the things that Bob Tasca talks about when we do the youth and education stuff is, he says, everybody says you got to have goals, right? It's been a part of your life forever. You got to have goals. You got to have goals. You got to have goals. But that's only part of it, because a goal without a plan is a wish. And there were a lot of people that were wishing that it would come back. There were a lot of people that wanted it to come back. There were a lot of people that were hoping it would come back, but there weren't a lot of people that had a plan, that didn't give up on the plan, that kept working the plan, that kept going out there and made it into a reality. And those people are the ones that I legitimately tip my cap to, because they're the ones that made it happen. Whether, I think Connie was a part of it, and I know Casey was a part of it, and some of the other people that were out there that just flat didn't give up. And they had the plan, and they kept working the plan and working the plan and working the plan. And even when everybody and his mother was ready to lock the gate and walk away, they didn't give up, and they were able to get the thing to bring it back to reality. So I'm very, very grateful for the people that had that drive and that foresight to just keep going, even though a lot of people would have told you, too late, it's over, it's dead, right? Time to have a funeral, and they weren't ready for the funeral.
Well, and that's what happened down here with Palm Beach International Raceway, and the many of the, I don't know what it's like to be this kind of a person, and nothing negative towards them, but really, yes, to just view everything from a defeatist negative attitude. And I remember our local racers, don't bother going to the commission meeting. Just let it go. The track that we loved so much. So we didn't save the track necessarily, but now the city commissioners want to try to build a new track and are looking for investors, and they are giving 128 acres. And NHRA has been involved in helping them, and Kurt Johnson, like, guiding them along. Like, there is hope. You have to try. But so many people, they're just willing to just roll over and just give up, and sad. And it's really sad. Hey, Terry says Tony Stewart versus Angel Sampey in the 2025 Gator Nationals final. Those are the kind of things we have to look forward to, potentially. Like, right, the Angel story. Let's not forget that. And Antron said, like, they want her in Top Fuel when the time is right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be. And, she's obviously pretty driven and got the ability to do it. She's, acclimated pretty quickly to the alcohol car. I personally think that she needs some more experience in the alcohol car before she jumps into the fuel car, but that's the road that they're taking, right? I mean, it was a huge step for her to go from motorcycles straight into that thing. And she's acclimated to that fairly quickly. So I don't think it would take her long, but I do think that she, like Tony felt, needed laps in the alcohol car before it was time for him to make the step all the way up into Top Fuel. So yeah, I think she'll be there, at some point, as long as it continues to be something that she wants to do and she wants to pursue. And, and if you want to make sure that Angel continues, just tell her she can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's for that. I hope
no way you'll ever drive a Top Fuel car. You're never going to get that. You don't have to, you can't do it. Forget it, man. It ain't happening.
Yeah. I would try that.
She might be won by the Gator Nationals this year now.
I would try that, but I like the way my face looks currently, so we will not do that. Jeff Foster out there saying, what's up? What's up, Jeff? How are you? Merry Christmas, Jeff. Happy holidays, all that. Jeff Foster, one of my favorite people out there. Nobody works harder than Jeff Foster. That's a fact. Let's see. Hey, it's Pittsburgh John here. Bob Bodie has a record on that lake that he still holds today, he believes. Well, that's kind of cool. Pittsburgh John Fiorito, right?
Yeah.
Bob Bodie. I didn't know he was a drag boat guy. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, way back when.
Wow, that's cool. Let's see. Not many people want to work hard anymore. The best things take hard work, which is great for those of us who like to work hard because we have, like, nobody in our way. Right? I really thought
there's definitely less traffic. There's no doubt about that.
Which I always say that, like, don't complain, man. They're getting out of your way on voluntarily. Be happy that people want to just kind of sit around and do nothing. I really thought Palm Beach Racetrack was going to be the big announcement. That wouldn't have been the biggest announcement in the history of NHRA. All right, Buddy Hull to Jim Dunn. That one caught me by surprise. It's a twofer because Buddy sold his car and Mike Guger, apparently, not purchased, but like as a crew chief, to Jacob McNeil.
He was in the trailer when they came and picked it up.
He's like, let me out. No, you're now part of the Jacob McNeil Racing Empire from Poseidon Oil Field Services. But I don't know how much you got to hang out with Jacob. Jacob ran a couple of races last year, and I think the kid's got a great intensity, and he's willing to learn the media stuff. He's done the big money bracket racing thing. He's got an oil field service company out in West Texas. He's going to try to do 10 races right off the bat out of his pocket and bring on some sponsorship. He's got Guger. Guger's been working with the car since Buddy Hull has owned it. It's I think what we would call it, a nice starter operation. Like people buy their starter home, you can buy a Top Fuel car. It's a nice starter operation. The reason this was possible was because Buddy was contacted by Big Jim Dunn and John Dunn. They've been watching him. They like the way he rolls. And so he is going to be a funny car racer. He's going to stage up against Hulk Hagan and Robert Height and John Force. I'm super excited for Buddy Hull.
I am too. And, I think you go back to what you said about the Top Fuel deal. I'm going to miss Alex Laughlin. I like having Alex out there. I like the fact that he's, got a little sass and a little attitude, and he's not afraid to ruffle some feathers with his comments. So hopefully he will be able to put something together. I really hated the fact that I saw Alex at one point. We were going different directions, and it was kind of like, hey, how's it? And that was the entirety of our exchange. I never saw him again the rest of the show because I was really hoping to sit down and talk to him and see about, what he's got in the plans and in the works. But I think, great for Buddy. He's going to have an opportunity to do something that he hasn't done before, and that's run the entire tour. He's going to have an opportunity to learn the funny car side of things, and he's going to have a chance to work with Big Jim, the legend. So I think that's like win-win-win for Buddy and for Jim. And again, I just hate the fact that I don't know where and when we're going to see Alex. I hope he's going to be out there at some point.
So I had spoken with Alex 3/4 of the way through the season, and in that moment, it sounded like there was something in the works, but I don't know. I agree with you completely. Alex Laughlin is one of those people who has done a great job on the social media, getting himself into various areas with the Gas Monkey show and introducing and going out and winning, one of Duck's races and being successful in everything he has driven. And I don't know if he's going out like that, right? I feel like Alex Laughlin is a tenacious kid, and he's going to keep pursuing this now that he knows what's up, driving a funny car, and he's just got to put together the right deal. He did not do a bad job driving the car. He got over the line a couple of times in his first year of driving a funny car. Like, who doesn't have that issue as they learn the experience? It's one of those deals. We'll just have to wait and see, but I agree with you. I hope there's more.
Yeah. And I think that he had, one of the things that he did well, you mentioned the social media, he's got a big following on social media, and he's very active doing stuff like that. I love Jim Dunn, and please don't anybody take this as a personal thing, but that's not a car that's going to race its way to 8 or 10 final rounds a year. So you have to generate what you can for your sponsors. I mean, it's a good, solid car. It's going to qualify, every race or darn close to every race. You're going to win your rounds here and there. But if you want to do more for your sponsors, if you want to get more exposure, you got to figure out a way to do it without the on-track performance. And that's something that Alex, I think, really excelled at, and something that I think Clay Millican gets that too. And even though his car has, made trips to the winner's circle and got the exposure on racetrack, Rick Ware coming in and helping that. But he is a guy that understands, if I can be bonus for my sponsors, then when it comes time to renegotiate, it's not just, well, how many times did you make it the final round? How many times were you on the big broadcast? How many times were you the featured car? But how many times did you get people to look at my logo? How many times did you drive traffic to my website? And there's a lot more to that than just what the car does on the racetrack. So Alex got a lot to bring to the table. And I hope that, as you said, I hope that he's able to put something together. And I'm sure we'll see him again at some point in some capacity. I'm just not sure when or where.
Right. Exactly. We'll find out. And, the journalist in me, the reluctant journalist, should reach out to Alex and just say, hey, what's up? More stories than we can cover, but I do want to make this point. Like, I don't know, it just pops into my mind, right? Like TMZ, like, do you go to TMZ? Probably not. Do I go to TMZ? Not really. Occasionally, if a story comes through my feed that is involving somebody that I know already. Do the masses go to TMZ? Yes, they do. And, the masses, do we ever want to be involved in the masses? Well, yeah, if we want to make money. And so when TMZ covers the National Hot Rod Association, and you're Tony Stewart and Leah, and there's an interview with Tony Stewart and Leah, and you're a supposed supporter of the sport who will willingly go to the social media and complain that the sport isn't doing enough and it should be more popular and we need more and NHRA needs to do a better job. And you're hovering your mouse over repost or not, and you elect to not. I think that undermines any argument you might have, because in the end, TMZ, they look to see which stories get the most traction. Soccer story, drag racing story, celebrity story, movie story, Aubrey Plaza story. Which got the most traction? Well, this drag racing story really got quite a few views. Look at it. It got 18 reposts. It's got 20 likes. The people are commenting. The Aubrey Plaza story, not as much as we would have hoped. That is what puts NHRA on the radar of other people. But I know, just based on it, that people don't do it. They don't want to share that NHRA story. while at the same time saying that they love the sport and that they wish more coverage would happen. Can you explain that?
Nope. I think it's a typical, in the bubble and out of the bubble thing. I really do. I think, if somebody looks at it and goes, well, that's TMZ, that's not us, that's not, then you discount it. But the reality is the objective for any company, and if you're in the business of selling tickets, which what NHRA is, right? We're in the business of selling tickets. The more people that you get to take a look are potential ticket buyers, and you want them to understand who you are. You want them to understand what you do. You want them to understand these are the stars of our sport, of our world that you can see here. And we would love to get your fan base to at least take a look. And if there's anybody in the world that thinks that doesn't work, look at the NFL ratings when Taylor Swift is there.
Right. The NFL when Taylor Swift. Does the NFL need to grow? No, they don't. But they're all running.
Yes, they do. Everybody does.
Well, that's the thing. All these sports guys all of a sudden are talking about Taylor Swift because they know it potentially means money in their pockets. But for some reason, the racers and crew members and people within the NHRA community, especially the media relations people, they are a reluctant repost. They're not going to do it, even though it might be a slightly convoluted journey. TMZ posts drag racing. They maybe realize that drag racing is something they should post more often, more eyes on the sport, more tickets sold, big TV contract, and eventually that money comes back to us and benefits everybody. This Tony Stewart story benefits everybody, but they won't do it. Just like the early days of WFO, and I always remember this. Don't have a Don Schumacher racing driver on the same show as a John Force racing driver. Don't do that. Why? Because neither one will retweet or repost the show. Why not? Because neither one, at their own expense, was willing to promote the other. Follow me? That's an experience that I lived. Like Tony Schumacher and John Force are on the same show. Was DSR going to share a show that includes John Force? No way. Why would we do that for him? Well, because you're on it also. Yeah, we don't need that. And vice versa. So I learned you can't have DSR and JFR on the same show because neither one, they'll both ignore it. Instead of promoting each other, they will never do it. And that's the drag racer mentality. That's what we're living with. And also probably a big reason why our sport is kind of, a little slower in growth than others, because everyone takes everything personal. Yeah, I'm being a little bit straightforward with you suckers today. That's right. How about Shawn Reed, full-time, Top Fuel, Rob Wendland, Ryan Elliott, and got several of Cruz's funny car guys who are Tommy Johnson's guys to come over to that team with an alliance, an actual data sharing alliance with Antron Brown. To me, big story, an addition of a full-time car.
Oh, huge story. And, Shawn Reed is a very competitive guy. Anybody that doesn't know him, he's a multiple-time champion on the water. He dabbled in Top Fuel a few times. I think the last time he ran was might have been the COVID year. But he showed that the skills and abilities that he developed winning races and championships on the water would transfer when he got into the car. It didn't take him long to get acclimated to the car. It's when you're driving a machine like that, one of the biggest things that people have told me over and over and over, routine. You want to do the same burnout. You want to back up the same. You want to do the same when you're pulling forward. You want to get the same heat in the clutch. You want to get the same. You want to get the routine. Well, the routine is certainly every bit as important when you're in the boat, especially when you're leaving off the holding rope, when you've got what is in essence a rolling start coming up to the starting line, anticipating the tree, reading the numbers, doing the stuff, routine. And it took him a very short amount of time to get comfortable in the Top Fuel car because he was so comfortable with a routine. So when he sat in that car and it's like, this is your routine now, this is what you need to do this. He didn't need 500 reps to get the routine down. And again, he's competitive. He's a good guy. He speaks well. And I think that hopefully he won't be afraid to get out there and, and get under some guy's skin and ruffle some feathers a little bit. If he gets out there and starts winning, starts turning on win lights, which he certainly should be capable of the team he's with, I'd love for him to bring out some of that personality that he had when he was over on the water, which was he wasn't afraid to talk a little smack, right? It's like, hey, you're running Joe. Joe who? Joe, the guy that I beat the last 3 races in a row? That Joe? Who am I running the next round? I mean, that's, Shawn Reed has a little bit of that personality in him, and I hope that he'll let it come out here and sparkle over on the NHRA side as well.
I think he will. I have been like on and off talking with Shawn through this whole process, and dude is pushing it all into the center of the table. Yeah. This is not, he's got a good business and has been successful in his life, but this is a different gear. I hope that someone will partner with him and continue to shore him up as we experience this, hopefully boom of growth within NHRA drag racing, bring on some corporate partnerships, because, when you're independently wealthy, it's a little bit easier, but it's not easy. And, independently wealthy is a varying term, right? It all depends. On that note, here's a Pro Stock Motorcycle story. Bummer, losing Jerry Savoy. Positive, Tim Kalungian bought the team. Chris Bostic is involved. And, I know Timmy doesn't have Jerry money. I know that. And so they're going to try to make a go of it in Pro Stock Motorcycle. But you and I both love Tim Kalungian and his attitude. Kind of reminds me of Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins. Today's not a good day to mention that, but notwithstanding, Tim Kalungian, team owner, Pro Stock Motorcycle. That's positive. He clearly sees a positive direction in the NHRA, or he wouldn't have bought all in on Pro Stock Motorcycle.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. I know, Chris Bostic toward the end of the year was looking, to get a little assistance to stay out there. And again, he's a guy that, put in a lot of effort, a lot of his own stuff, wasn't afraid to go out on a limb. I still think he was the first guy that got out there with a 4-valve cylinder head from the Monster Engineering guys. And, and I think that fits well with Tim Kalungian, who's a guy who's not afraid to get a little bit outside of the box, outside of the comfort zone also. I don't know that we've seen completely the last of Jerry Savoy. I really will not be surprised if at some point he doesn't go, maybe I'll just drop in at Indy and come out and check on everybody, or maybe I'll just drop in out in Sonoma and see what's going on. But he had himself a pretty good run. And from a guy who said, right, I want to do this before I get too old to do it. And I just want to win one race. I just want to win one race. If I win one race, that'll be a career call. And he hung around as long as he did, won a championship, had a lot of success. And like I said, I don't know for sure that we've seen the end of him. It wouldn't surprise me to see him pop up to have a cameo every now and again.
Well, one way or another, come visit us, because I don't know about you, how tight your relationship is, but I think Jerry is great. Like, I love the guy. He's a straight shooter. He'll tell you what he thinks. He's got a lifetime of experience, hard worker, working fingers to the bones, doing the alligator thing. That's like dirty and tough work, and has earned a great living, got a great family. Vonnie over there, just amazing stuff. Has been nothing but super kind and friendly. Got a couple of U.S. Nationals wins under his belt, and needs to be like. I don't like when people stop racing and then they don't come out to the track ever. Like, hey man, we're your friends. Come see us every once in a while. But good luck to Tim and Chris. Bostic, the guy has invested a whole lot. He runs that Kangaroo Leather, which is cool. And he gave me a great education about that. All right. There's still more stories though, Alan. There's more stories to talk about. Some business style stories, like Holley is now the title sponsor of Factory X as opposed to the presenting. We got more Factory X cars. There was a little discussion about maybe moving the start of the Factory X season from Gainesville to Vegas. I don't know if that is official, if they're just kicking it around, but there's so many cars that are on like the 5-yard line that we don't know if they'll be done for the Gator Nationals, but they'll definitely be done by Vegas. Do you know anything on that story?
I don't. And I hope that they actually debut in Gainesville, simply because I would rather see them first time out in the standard configuration than see them running 4 wide first time out. Now, if they decide to do that, then okay. I mean, obviously I'll live with it and I'm not going to throw rocks at it, but I just think that I think there's going to be so much new. I would rather have their debut be 2 wide instead of 4 wide, but however they decide to do it, then I'll deal with it.
Yes, exactly. Well, we'll see. Right. I'll deal with it. Let's see some other storylines. And I'm just going right off NHRA.com. How about Belle Rose getting back at Sports Nationals? I feel so great for Nelson and Marla. Like, they put so much effort into that track. Nelson, it was my neighbor. He lived right here in Hollywood, Florida. We grew up at the same tracks. He took over PBIR. And then they realized, like, wow, this guy's got really good ideas and is going to do some great things for our track, so we should fire him. And they did. And that was part of the reason that, the track downward spiraled, because they didn't want to be successful. But that's a different story for a different day. He finally found a great home, worked in South Georgia for a while, and has poured his blood into the track, loves it more than anything, and now is being rewarded by the NHRA with another big event.
Well, the Sports Nationals is cool, but they're also going to have a regional event in February before Gainesville. They're going to have a regional event there. So you're going to have a chance to go down there and see alcohol cars run and see, the entire Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series, as they've got a chance to battle it out and get something done, little maybe tune-up run, so to speak, before Gainesville. So, you go there and then you come to the Baby Gators. Heck, somebody could, by the time you leave Gainesville, you could have a 3-race lead over the rest of the world right now.
Exactly. C5 Pete wants to know about Factory X and the Corvette body. I have heard from multiple sources that certain Corvettes from certain year to certain year have been added to the Factory X list. Not the C8.
I think it's the C3.
Is it the C3? No,
Yeah,
it's not the C3. Get out of here. 19, but like to 2014 or something. Maybe it's the C7. I don't know. But apparently there are a couple that are close that were getting built that they wanted to run in Factory X configuration, and they're going to let them.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more the merrier. Bring them on. I think that's great. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. The amount of enthusiasm that's around Factory X right now is all time. It's, I think at least rivals what the Factory Stock Showdown was a few years ago, before they got too fast. But the fact that now looking forward, right, how much longer will there be a Camaro? How much longer will there be a Challenger? How much longer are these things going to be? So if there's another something out there that, with the blessing of the manufacturers, we could get involved in the category, I'm all for it. And, Corvettes, there is a big Corvette culture out there that may get, again, a couple of eyes to look at the NHRA stuff that might not have done it before, because I'm sure people that are just absolutely Corvette guys. Hey, look, there's a Porsche event. Hey, look, there's a Hey, look, there's 3 Corvettes. Oh, 3 Corvettes. But there are people that are so heavily ingrained in the Corvette world. And if that gives them an excuse or a reason to come out and give us a look, come on, I'm all in.
Well, exactly. Just more the merrier. Caesar asks about the Meyer sisters. Are the Meyer sisters returning to drive? I can say no. I had a great conversation with Megan in the Fuel Factory booth, and she is, super happy pursuing life's other goals. It is amazing. And Julie Natas, someone said that Julie is moving up to Top Fuel. That is not the case. Julie is going to run A Fuel for Randy Meyer, who is a very busy guy and going to have a very busy season. Walt Walker says PRI was great, but I still haven't been able to live the dream of talking to Alan Reinhart. Alan, you've never talked to Walt?
I guess not. Was he there?
He's there. He's at the track. He helps out Bruno. He's a very knowledgeable guy.
I'm not that hard to find, especially, tell Bruno to call me.
I blame you, Walt. Sorry. Reinhardt's pretty easy to get hold of. Right where he is at all times. He's in the tower. Just camp out. And these people talking about, Camaro being dead in 2024. I just saw that they extended the Camaro production run. And I can also tell you that if you watch the trades, that, the tide of electric vehicles is receding. The technology was advancing so rapidly that, they thought that this is where everything's going, except for one important fact. People don't want them. People don't want them. I'm not against
just a little something.
Right. I'm not against electric vehicles like some people. You and I have talked about how we think they're neat. But when it comes to actually going and dropping between $30,000 and $50,000 on anything, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it on an EV. Like, it's not going to happen. I got a bunch of reasons. They're all mine, personal. Sorry, I'm not going to do it. And it turns out there's a lot of people that also feel the same way. So just because you have the technology, you can do something, doesn't mean everybody is going to do it. And so the tide of the EV is receding. And many manufacturers are realizing, oh, okay, well, maybe we're not going to go fully electric in the next couple of years. Maybe we're going to have some ICE related options for people. And I really believe that, it might not be the Challenger that we know right at this moment, but those options are going to still be out there in somehow, some way.
So, Joe, like you just said, right? Just because the technology exists, just because there's new fancy schmancy, doesn't mean that you're going to convince everybody that they need to jump, right?
Oh my God, it's a beeper, it's a pager, it's a sky pager. It's what is that? Nextel. Anybody
out there that's under 20 years old is going, what is that?
143. I had a white one. I was late to the pager game. I'll be honest. Like, I thought it was dumb. All my friends are carrying around these pagers and they're like, yeah, paging each other, 143 and this and that and the other thing and little smileys and stuff. And, hey, I'm a drag racer too. That's how I understand you guys and your weird negativity, because I too possess it. I fight it at the same time. But I know what it's like. I know where you're coming from. I understand why you won't repost that story, man. It's just against your code. I'm not going to post TMZ, even though it's a sport that's going to benefit me. I won't do it. That's how I felt about the pagers. I got it very late. I think I'm part of what killed the pager.
Well, that and the fact that pretty much everybody moved on. Yeah, pretty much everybody moved on to a phone.
Yeah, better than the pager. Just, that's not a real pager, though. Tell them what it is.
It's a real pager.
It's a pager, but it's not for people to contact Reinhart and you to call back and supply them with something.
No, that particular one is actually a weather pager. So
it's a weather pager. And like there are racers that are on the starting line and their weather pager pages them some information. And then they put it in, they use that to figure out what their car is going to run.
Yeah, you can use that for last second adjustments if, whether you're trying to get dialed in or if you're in the pro categories, if you need to make a last second adjustment to whatever, to the fuel, to the timing curve, but I do love carrying the thing at the racetrack because at least 24 times a weekend, somebody will walk up to me and go, dude, it's 2023. Get a phone. But yeah, I do like the pager.
Stan is generally a negative commenter. He says that the new Corvette is ugly with a capital U. I love it. I got one down the street from me. Every time I see a new, the mid-engine Corvette, the C8, I love the previous versions. There are Corvettes that have been uglier and Corvettes that have been nicer. But I was at a Christmas party this past Saturday night. When I got back from PRI, I went straight to a Christmas party. A lot of exotics in there. And you got an Aston Martin and you got a Ferrari and you got all these cars. And right in between them all is this Corvette. And you look at the body lines and the style and just the exoticness of the car. Man, I felt like the Corvette hung right with them. And maybe this guy doesn't like any of those cars, right? The mid-engine look, because that's a different kind of look. We're all front-engine people because, this is the way it is. But I don't know, man. Ugly, Stan? I think that's kind of harsh. A little harsh.
Yeah, there's a reason they make 64 different colors of crayons, because different people like different stuff. I have people occasionally that'll come up to me when I'm in this thing.
Yep.
Oh, I can't believe you painted it green. It looks terrible. I said, well, I wasn't painted for you.
Somebody
if you don't like my car, I don't care.
They deserve.
Go get your own car and paint it whatever color you want. I don't care. I did it for me. You're never going to please all of the people all of the time. I took this thing. It was actually the funniest thing ever was when I took it. I made a video for Youth and Education Services where I took this car, put it side by side with, I think it was a 20, with a 20 GT Mustang, and did basically a technology comparison, right? Because people, you talk about, hey, you want to be a technician. Well, when you're working on that car, you know what a technician had for test equipment? A test light. That's the only test equipment you needed on that car. And things have come a long way. So anyway, I set it up with a local Ford dealer here in town that I was going to take my car down and they were going to let me borrow a brand new one, put them side by side, shoot this video for youth and education. And so I went down to the Ford dealership. I went in and I saw my guy and I said, hey, da-da-da-da-da. I said, and he goes, oh yeah. He goes, I'll have him bring it to. And so he literally picked up the phone and said, yeah, he goes, bring that GT around. He goes, there's an old Mustang out front. Just park next to the old one. And I went, a what?
Yeah. Classic.
I said, how about classic? How about, and he goes, oh, well, whatever. I'm like,
no, not whatever.
And you're selling them. But there are always going to be people that look at something like that and just see an old car. And if that's fine, I'm not going to argue with you.
No, they're called morons.
I think if you're going to look at a Corvette and say, I think it's ugly, great. Don't buy one.
Yeah.
And guess what? There's a lot of people that think they're pretty nice because there are a lot of people that are buying them. And, it's kind of like the other deal. It's like, good. Then you won't be buying a Corvette that I'm looking at, right? I won't get in a bidding war with you over it. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. And like I said, if you think this car's ugly or that car, fine. The only thing that always gets me is tell me what you like or don't like, but do it without putting something else down. You'll never hear me say, I really love the Mustang because the Camaros are ugly. That's two completely different things.
Yeah.
You can love both. You can hate both. But I can tell you that I love Mustangs without telling you anything negative about anything else, whether I have something negative that I think or not. So,
screw you, Reinhart.
Anybody ever walks up to me and says, well, that's just an old, ugly car. Okay, great. Next. I'm not going to waste time arguing with you.
It takes all kinds. There's all kinds of people out there. It's a miracle that the world is as great as it is. That's how I always look at it. The C7 says Ken Justice, and Ken is out there doing virtual producer, and I appreciate it. He also says that the schedule has been revised to start in Vegas, and so we will have a couple of more cars there. They want to get, that was a little feedback that I got this year, was that they had wished that this year had been like exhibition year as opposed to real championship with 4 cars out there. Regardless, Greg Stanfield got the job done, and Ben Schrader as crew chief. So that was kind of cool from EFI University. Good stuff. All right. Any other final thoughts? Anything that we didn't cover in this rapid fire session of WFO Radio NHRA Nitro? Is there anything that we didn't get to?
Well, I think there's a lot we didn't get to just because there was so much going on during, the entire weekend out there at PRI. But fortunately, we've got a couple more weeks before we go back to racing. So there'll be plenty of time for that.
Well, Johnny Lindbergh to Paul Lee. That was a bit of a controversial story. John Medlin and Jason Bunker announced publicly to go to cruise, but then it turns out that John Medlin is staying with Paul Lee. So that's like an interesting storyline one way or another, like what happened? And then John Medlin says that he wants Johnny Lindbergh to be on the team or with the team. And I talked to Paul, and Paul said that it was, Medlin had a big part in that idea. Like Medlin wanted Lindbergh. We both know that Lindbergh is a very, very smart and talented young person. You put him with John Medlin, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, like that is a potential dynamic duo.
My question is going to be simply, how long is it going to take for Johnny Lindbergh to become very comfortable and get the grasp on the nitro stuff? He's a very sharp guy. He's a very driven guy. He's a very aggressive guy. And that can get you in trouble in the nitro ranks. So I do believe that once he gets to the comfort level, that he is going to be a Jimmy Prock kind of guy. He is going to be, that kind of guy. He's going to be, a Dickie Venables kind of guy. He's not going to be a guy that goes up to the starting line thinking, okay, let's see if we can qualify 10th. He's going to be a guy that goes, what's the track record? That's what we're going for. Even if it's a 130-degree track and 90 grains of water, and that's just Johnny's mentality. There's a reason he had the first alcohol funny car to go in the 30s. There's a reason he had the first one to go 270. There's a reason that he had all those milestones when he was driving, because he's a very aggressive guy. So once he gets comfortable and gets a handle, I think on the nitro stuff, I think he's going to be a pretty serious player. But I also think that takes some time. And we've seen it, over the years. Learning how to go fast is one thing. Learning how to win races is something else. And once they get there, then I think that's going to be a very, very strong force to deal with in the nitro funny car ranks. But I think it's going to take a little time to get there.
Yeah, well, and that's what Medlin is all about, right? Like from what I understand, and this happens with a lot of folks, you go your life and you want to pass on your knowledge. And I'm feeling it already, what little knowledge that I have acquired. Like, you want to pass it on a little bit, right? As opposed to just keep it with you. What's the point of that? And so from what I understand, John Medlin is really wanting to mentor some young talent. He helped out Jason Bunker. He, Dean Antonelli, like there's many that have come up through that crew. And John now will have Johnny Lindbergh. I want to mention Mike Janis Racing. Mike Stavrinos going to run for that team, and he's got Speed and Truck World as his sponsor. I have a Speed and Truck World right by me here in sunny South Florida off Sunrise Boulevard, and I'm wondering if it is the same Speed and Truck World, because that would give Mike a South Florida connection. I'm going to do a little reporting on that as best as I can, try to figure that one out. But just so much positive.
I would think you could compare the logo and get that done in about 12 seconds.
I know. I got to do it. I got to compare the logo. We'll see if I can do it here on another deal. But again, just so many positive stories. You're supposed to talk. If you need help. Yeah. No.
Just let me know if you need help.
Speed and Truck World, Fort Lauderdale. Here we go. It's coming up. Bring me to the Facebook page. That was a top thing. Nah, different logo.
Okay.
Yeah. Different logo. Well, nope. Now I see a logo that's kind of similar. People share fonts all the time. Nah, I'm gonna have to do
more research is needed.
More research is needed, folks. More research is needed. Because I would love.
I do still monitor my announcer email even during the winter break. So if anybody's got questions, comments, or you want to continue the discussion with me, shoot me a note, announcer@nhra.com. Are we doing next week, or are we?
Yeah, we're doing next week. Why wouldn't we do next week?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're sneaking up on Christmas. Are we? I mean, I know that occasionally we've skipped because.
Oh, we're definitely skipping some too. Don't get me wrong, but let's see. So next week I'll be bringing my transmissions up to FTI Performance in DeLand, but I'm going to try to do that on Monday. Next week, the 18th through 22nd, I think there's the opportunity for a couple of WFOs to a certain point. And then obviously Christmas is on a Monday, guys. Christmas Day is on a Monday. And so that whole week will definitely be off or best of, or I'll be imploring you guys to go to the archive. But I think we can do a show next Tuesday, Alan, regardless. Okay. That's still far enough away man, are you kidding me? Christmas is 2 weeks away. This is ridiculous. Yeah. I don't even have a tree up in the studio yet.
I do.
Yeah, no, I saw yours. You were
okay.
You were the day after Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving.
No, after. Yeah, it
was,
right. Yeah. Cassie Mitchell-Smith was get me motivated to get that done. But yeah, I will be having my annual open house. So if you're in Southern Arizona on Christmas Day and you want to stop by, feel free to stop by.
Yes, stop by and taste the scotch. And Billy says, have the biggest Christmas, one of the biggest Christmases ever.
I hope so. If you're looking to get me a gift, I believe cash is always good, and I am a double extra large.
There it is. All right, Alan, great job. Great hanging out with you at the PRI show. Had a lot of fun for a few minutes in the Total Seal booth, and so much going on as we turn the page to 2024.
So wait a minute. You said at the beginning of the show that you were talking to Stennett about your engine. How's your engine?
In multiple pieces. The block is at Straub Technologies in Tennessee. They are going to do various machine work to it, obviously deck and hone, but we're also going to punch out the cam bore to 55 mil and the lifters to 903, is it? just to be a little more reliable there. They're going to do that work as part of the Engine Performance Expo. Gary wants the block ASAP. You know what I mean? He wants to go, go, go. And I'm excited about that. But they want to shoot the Project Pontiac as part of the Engine Performance Expo, doing all this work. And they've got some interesting personalities coming in, and the folks from Rottler are coming in, and I will be there. So they wanted to wait until the Engine Expo to do this machine work. I said, that's fine by me. But the next week, I'm going to Kansas to Division 5 awards banquet. And when I go there, since I'm in Kansas, I'm going to go see the Wagners, and I'm going to go see Gary. And so I just talked to him like, Gary, are you cool with that? Like, as soon as they finish the machine work at the end of the expo, we're going to put it on a pallet and send it to you. So hopefully Project Pontiac's block and me will arrive at the same time. And that would actually be a cool visual for all of our content, unwrapping it and doing some deburring and whatnot. And so that's what we were talking about. Folks at Edelbrock already supplied a set of cylinder heads. They're round port Ram Air Force style cylinder heads, which are great. John Gadosh has the heads. He's running them through his CNC program, because everybody may or may not know, but John Gadosh is a Pontiac guru. That's like his primary gig, is Pontiac engines. So he's got a great CNC program. Been amazing. All the people that have they want to see me back on the racetrack and try again. This tribute to my father in many ways, get the car out on the racetrack. And at PRI, it was never more powerful than, people understanding that WFO Radio's got a diehard audience. Are we the biggest? Maybe we're not the biggest, but we're definitely very intense. And people want to see me try to race at some point, get my butt just handed to me in like a box. And so there's been a lot of support for the Project Pontiac, cranking rods in Arizona, heads in Maryland, transmission's going to be in DeLand, Florida. And I got a considerable amount of work that I got to do just on the chassis. And
why are the cranking rods in Arizona?
Because Molnar is holding them until we can provide Carrillo piston weights so that they can balance it on their CWT balancer. Gotcha. One of Randy Neal's balancers, because they'll balance it right from their shop. And so if they're going to balance it, and I'm a big believer in CWT and their balancing equipment, thanks to the Engine Performance Expo, why not? And so it's like a global project, and it's all coming together like on the map. It's going to be pulled towards Kansas and Emporia, and at some point we'll be in a dyno room with Gary Stinnett, and who knows?
2028.
So Alan, since you brought it up, the goal of the story is to run the 2025 Gator Nationals in Super Street, right? Because Super Street isn't there this year. They were there last year. They won't be there this year. They'll be there next year. You know what that means? I need a grading point or two. Like I gotta get on the grading point board. Like maybe I can go and ask for some sort of exemption. But what do you think the negative people will say about that? Castello getting some sort of exemption to race? No chance. It'll never happen. So I need a grading point. So I gotta figure out.
I think whoever you run first round would be in favor of it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to try to enter something into something at the Orlando Divisional. Is that gets me on the board with the grading point. Maybe I can enter two somethings into something at the Orlando Divisional. Maybe somebody out there on WFO Radio right now would love a celebrity quasi driver to enter something that's sitting in the trailer in Super Street. And if not, I have a backup plan. But there's a lot of moving parts here is the point. A lot of moving parts. Hey, Project Pontiac is done in time for the 2025 Gator Nationals. Can I get into the race? No, you don't have any grading points. Not cool. Not cool. Right? Not cool. Like domestic violence. Not cool. All right, Alan. Great job. Thank you.
Right. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. I hope that everything goes smoothly and you get all your stuff in Kansas in short order.
Yeah. Once you go Pontiac, you never go back.
I'll take your word for it.
Have a good day, Alan. Appreciate you.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
There goes the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, NHRA Reinhardt on Twitter. Follow him. Appreciate Alan coming on the show each week. Hopefully, you guys are all subscribed and you're going to watch that Doug Coletta video and you can share it as just Respect to Doug. Here I am. I admit I missed the window a little bit, but I pull it off my phone. I pull this great video up there. I genuinely believe this is one of the greatest drag racing moments captured. And a lot of people have it, but this is my view, Joe's view. And I posted it up there and it got 200 views. 200 views, man. This is come on. Where are the Coletta fans? Where are the people who want to see the tears in the eyes of people? Nah. Let's see what else. Ron Merkel, South Florida Pontiac guy. Once you go Pontiac, you never go back. That's where I got that. Bobby Bender. Hope to see you both at Gainesville. Billy. Alan is ready to knock on some doors and make sure things are moving along. He definitely seemed very interested. No, Reinhart is a positive B. He wants to see things go. And I did have a lot of people interested in my project. Got to get on the track again, man. Got to get on the track. You talk into a microphone and you don't race at all. That's one thing. But you go out there and get your butt whooped. And you feel the burn. There's a little something. Suddenly you're a racer now. And my way back in the day experience, while that's good and all, it's not the same as doing a little something. Folk Dave and Sue Morris and Gary Stinnett and Steve Williams and John Gaydosh and so many people, Chris Straub and Lake Speed and Matt Hartford and Keith Jones. It's just so many people. Paul Lee want to see this happen now. And I want to see it happen. And, we'll tell you, we put the Project Pontiac thing up there. I'm not just blowing smoke here, guys. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But there's a lot of things, there's a lot of elements that go into this. And since I'm doing the lion's share of the logistical work myself, it's tough stuff. Hey, put your comments in the comment section, guys. Final comments. Are you mad? You mad, bro? You mad that I yelled at you for being negative? Come on. And the Tony deal, did I bring you around a little bit? Check out the Ignition show and you hear the opinions of a large group of people and they're all sharing their thoughts, and we kind of go on a journey from everyone was kind of expecting something different. I dig it. I get it. I was. But when you think about it, just like Mission Foods, I wanted Oracle, man. I wanted T-Mobile. I wanted AT&T. I wanted a technology company, Comcast, that is going to help internet access at the track and sharing digitally, all kinds of different stuff is where my headspace was, what I initially thought would be good. What do I think would be good? And then when Mission Foods was announced, I was like, food? But then after thinking about the many factors, tops of which is that they really love and respect and understand our sport and its racers, and that any person on their daily journey can connect with Mission Foods at their local grocery store at the end cap on a bag with some chips, and they can enjoy it and they can make a recipe and they can watch it and they eat it while watching the racing, and that the folks in Mission Foods are going to try to do some big things. I realized that my initial take, even though it belonged to me, I'm not saying it was wrong, but this is great too. And really good for the sport. And that's the same deal with the Tony Stewart deal. Maybe you went to the social media and you attacked, the social media department. You tried to get really hardworking people fired with your social media and put them on the unemployment line and take food out of the mouths of their children, right? Because you didn't like it. I understand. That's a natural reaction. When, you don't nail an announcement exactly as you thought it was going to be. Of course you want to, try to get people fired from their jobs. Modern, but makes sense. But now when you think about it and you think about Tony Stewart running Steve Torrence in a semifinal to go to the final round against Brittany Force, that is going to be so cool. That is going to be so cool. And you can't even imagine. Now, what are the ratings going to double? Are the ratings going to double? I don't know. I would certainly hope that Tony Stewart's fans feel connected to him so much that even though he's not turning left, that they will want to watch his journey, How will he do against the lifelong drag racers? Remember, he led the category in a fuel in reaction time. WFO store, discounted, 35% off. That's right. This Miami Hollywood t-shirt is very popular. Right on the front, you can get it in any color. You can get it on a mug. You can get the Miami Hollywood logo. I've seen people all around the country wearing these. It makes me feel very proud because we redigitized the logo of the track that has long since been gone. And so I understand this is the only place you can get it. But mugs and whatnot make great gifts, of course. The people who support the show, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. You can drive a dragster. Your wife or your husband can drive a dragster. It's a half-day course. You make 3 runs, 1 half-track, 2 full-track passes. They can even set up a race, and it is a great corporate team-building experience. Go to frankhawley.com, and please shout WFO at them when they pick up the phone. Tell them you heard it on WFO Radio. Nothing worse than somebody hears about it on WFO Radio, and then they say that, they give credit to the newspaper. Samtech.edu, engine builder, machinist, engine blocks, cylinder heads, CNC, motorsport EFI tuning. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. You go to the website, you call Brian Massengill, you ask for him by name. I'm interested in the program. WFO Joe told me. Definitely. And then there's Marvin Rodak, rodakscoffeeandgrills.com. 817-924-6821. Patreons, the VIP Patreons. We've got the Hear It From Heiner Pro Stock Show, Pro Stock Insider. We have also announced the new torque calibration services. The show's called Torqued with Matt in Australia. And it's an informative show. It's information for the Patreons only about how to torque properly, when to torque to what specs, and why it is so vital. And now, how many episodes are we going to do about that? Matt in Australia, who owns Torque Calibration Services of Australia, who is very, very knowledgeable. They supply torque wrenches and they calibrate the torque wrenches for many, if not most, of the top fuel teams down there, V8 supercars, etc. Is going to be giving torque spec information as part of your Patreon membership. Plus, you get a t-shirt if you sign up for a full year. You cannot sign up for 1 month at $5 and get a t-shirt. Like, that doesn't make financial sense. It's just like the people who thought we were going back to 1320. Like, that doesn't make sense anymore. About as much as the Steve Torrence is an alien. I just came up with that one. And maybe he is. The guy did win 4 championships in a row. That was the big news. That Steve Torrence is actually an alien living among us. Of course, the folks at Foggett, folks at Bernie's, Total Seal, Phillips Connect, all on board. And FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. I'll be going up there next week. I'll be taking pictures and FTI parts. All right. I've stalled long enough. Let's see what comments are going to bring us home in the comment section, right? In the comment section. All right. Ken Justice. Great show as always. Thank you, Ken. I'm yelling at people today. Yeah, my NHRA contract is technically on hiatus, so I can be very aggressive towards people, right? When you have a conversation with another person, even through a live stream, they might come back at you. When you tweet, you're hiding under your bed. You can say anything you want. That's why on social media, people say anything they want because they don't even know. Like, someone might come back at them and it's just words. When someone asks you a thought out question, what is the biggest announcement in NHRA history? What are the biggest announcements? Name another one. Name another one that rivals this one. And nobody's got an answer. And then finally, the word one of totally makes it vague anyway. Like, people are saying this is the greatest show in the history of the world. People are saying, like, some random guy said it once, and then people are saying, learn media. Great show today, Monica. Thank you, Monica. Monica's always tweeting out that the swag is on sale. Earl says, glad for them to start a family. Didn't Rhonda Hartman drive while pregnant for a couple of months? I don't know that. I guess I could ask Richard, but I probably wouldn't want to do that. That sounds like kind of private stuff to ask people. Their private business. Yeah, when you were... Leah has been so adamant that she is not pregnant. Okay? So adamant. Like, I'm not pregnant is what she said. Leah said that, not me. I'm going to call it your cartoon voice you use every now and then. I like it. Yeah, that's my other people voice. You know, doing talk radio before the video, like voices were a bigger deal. I do lots of voices. Voices are a fun thing. It's you know, is it mocking? It's not mocking. I just want to make sure people know that it's not me coming up with that idea. You know, it originated with a character called Snake Man on the Joe and Mark Show on 560 QAM. You know the guy. He goes out to a public place and he brings a snake. And it's like, hey, look at my snake. I'm cool because I got a snake. You want to touch my snake? And, you know, and some people fall victim to that guy. And they go over and they give him the attention. And they're looking at the snake. There's also the bird guy. But Snake Man is a different thing. And so I did the voice the first time for Snake Man. And my friends went crazy and it became part of my act. Got to bring a snake out to the public to get the ladies to come over. I don't know. Not my thing. NHRA final round of Top Fuel should have been an ESPN top 10 sports moment, Leah versus Doug. Yes, it should have. But why wasn't it? Right? Because we're not on their radar, because we're a Fox partner, because they choose to ignore us because we have partnerships with others, kind of like that DSR JFR thing that I was telling you about earlier. Like, it's got to be a big story for ESPN to promote a Fox sports property, unless it's the NFL, which they are mutually held. The NASCAR media contract is $1.1 billion. The only way we're going to get there, meaning 10% of that, which would fundamentally change the existence of the sport of drag racing, is for everybody to get on the same page. And when TMZ or Yahoo News tweets out a story about drag racing, your personal, what do you think, I believe, should take the back seat to what's good for the fam. And we need the retweets, and we need to unify and push this out there, especially for the next year, on which the whole sport will be being judged on its scope and scale. You know, we can talk all day long about we should do this and we should do that, but if the fans of drag racing and the people, most importantly, the industry insiders that are in the sport and get paid by the sport and through the sport, are not willing to click retweet or share on a story, even if they don't like the way it was presented, just to increase the numbers, then you don't really love the sport that much, because you're putting your own personal crap in front of something. Spoke with Dan de Blasio this morning, who said he called your track championship. He said he appreciates your work. Wow. I don't know. Thank you, Dan. It was 1,000 years ago. If it had to do with the Joe Track Championship, one of the three. Spot on regarding TSR. Everybody has to eat. Regarding Mission Foods. What happened to the satisfaction parable? Under promise, over deliver. Believe it or not, it works. Yeah, well, I think they overpromised and over-delivered. The response to the story was massive. I can tell you it was a mission accomplished moment. If some industry insiders were a little upset, they were hoping it was something television-oriented, it's only because they don't know that those negotiations aren't happening right now. And all of those things that you wish might happen might still happen. This was in the moment. What will the next one of the biggest announcements in NHRA history be? I'm sad for the ones that don't get it at TSR. JP, what's up, bud? Great show as always. Big news coming from Gutierrez Brothers Racing for 2024. And where exactly are you going to break that news? Is that going to be like in a press release? Is that going to be something that you know, maybe we could do it live on WFO? I mean, you know, I can't promise TMZ, but I can promise the most devoted and diehard fans. I show Joe and Alan, Stephen Glenn. Just wondering if you ever read the book I sent you last year. Was that Riding Around? Which one? I got a stack of books that people sent me last year that I haven't read. Need specification. I did. Race Sherpa sent me a nice book called Tribes, about leadership and tribes, and drag racing is a tribe. And I've read the first 25 pages on the plane. I'm going to keep going. It was also in consideration of crew and sponsors for Leah to step out before getting pregnant. Interesting point, Ricky. Yeah. How about that? Everyone thinks, how difficult must it have been for Leah, who has been racing for 26 consecutive years? When she said that, I didn't fully understand. I thought it was a typo. This is her life. She's going to step out of a car. Oh my gosh. Like, that's got to be painful. Why? Because she's going to bring a life into the world and start a family. But they're going to start the season. They're going to fall behind. She's going to step aside, or they're going to take the lead. She's going to step aside. No, this was a very smart and responsible thing for Leah to do. Will NHRA bar Stewart when he starts his own high roller series? Well, listen, I think you're just kind of making up stuff. I've been seeing the high roller series, that high roller series is in addition to, not in lieu of. Maybe they will start it. I don't know if that's what happens. Look, it's Jeff Turk, my bud. Great seeing you at PRI. Merry Christmas. There is a video coming soon on Attention in the Pits, NHRA's YouTube channel, Attention in the Pits. We did one this morning with Bob Mandel, or Bob's Profab, a brand new Chevy 2, beautiful car, immaculate, total OCD experience. But we've got one with the Blackbird coming. Blackbird FX, Blackbird X. And I'm just going to tell you that Jeff Turk forced me into the car. And it ends with an exciting conclusion. And that will be coming at some point. We did a lot of work to make sure you had an Attention in the Pits for almost every week up until Gainesville. WFO, #1 in Canada. Thank you very much. We love our Canadian listeners, brethren. Scott Thomas says, great show, Joe. Have a great week. Steve Brenwald just announced Mike Thielen to switch to nitrous with Ricky Smith as crew chief on Competition Plus. Way to go. Steve Brenwald, little virtual producer. I like Thielen. He is, I think that's who you're talking about. It looks like the name just minus the N, which would be a typo. Maybe it's Mike Thiel. I don't know, but this is the word switch, context. I don't know. You got to proofread your stuff. Reinhardt's helicopter teacher. So you're saying TMZ seeks out NHRA headlines, or like in every other sport, does the sanctioning body email them with details? So the answer is the sanctioning, both. The answer is both. Okay. There's only so many spots for headlines. There's only so many positions. Is it worthy? So we might submit a story. Certainly, that they don't print every story that they get sent to them. There is a large number of submissions, and there's a small number of stories that actually make it. What makes them decide to choose to print a story versus not? Spend a little time thinking about that. Why do some stories make it and some stories do not? The answer is whether or not they think it's a big enough story involving a big enough personality that will ultimately drive views and clicks to their site on which they sell advertising. Billy, how do you not know this already, my man? How do you not know? And so when everybody in the NHRA sees a story on one of those sites that's not an NHRA site, it should be your natural inclination to share it so that the people that are behind the keyboards on that site say 20 reposts for this drag racing story. The next time we get a drag racing story, we're going to post it because it got 20 reposts. But instead, many of you people don't do anything. And then the folks at TMZ say, yeah, drag racing's not that big a deal. And they ignore it. That's how it works. And so if you have seen a story that's a drag racing story and not engaged with it, this is cool. Tony Stewart's going to get smoked. Steve Torrence is better. Brittany Force is going to whoop him. He can't handle the speed. If you don't do that, then you're not doing your job for the sport. And I'm not saying it is your job. It's not your job. But then don't complain that the sport isn't as popular. You can't complain then because you have an opportunity to do something to be helpful and you're not. That's how it works, Billy. How do you not know that? Happy holidays. We need Joe to get that Project Pontiac ready for the 2024 season, 2025. Yes, Thielen. Thank you. Earl Holt. Attention in the Pits should have its own folder on the NHRA app so people can see them all. I'm under the impression that we have our own playlist on the YouTube channel. So you just go to YouTube and go to NHRA's page, and they have their playlists. You can. All of them. Over 100 episodes of Attention in the Pits. And it's evolved. And, I can't apologize for being me, guys. Like, this is it. All right? We had the idea. We go to the drivers. I do the best interview I possibly can in one take. And that's it. And a lot of work goes into that. And I feel like it's great. And the racers who are featured have had nothing but positive things to say. If you can't stand the sound of my voice, there's a really strong probability that you're not listening right now. Top Fuel is going to be stacked next year. Bobby Bender. You can drive the wagon, Joe. Yeah. To get the grading point in stock. Yeah, Bobby. Right. What are you going to drive, Bob? What are you going to drive? Thank you for that. Like, confidence that I won't, man. Thank you, Bob. Where's the darn wallpaper I gave you? Freaking awesome show today. Your big moment is coming, bro. The wallpaper. No, man. Where is it? Send it. Resend it. Not interested in John Force, Joe? I love John Force. Like, I love John Force. The guy has done so much for the sport of drag racing. And as much as, it really pains me when people say he's overexposed, he gets as much exposure. He's not getting the exposure that's commiserate with the effort that he has put in for the good of drag racing and how much he loves drag racing. Not even close. And when someone tries to run down John Force, I feel sad inside because of how much this man has done for the sport of drag racing. And he's a great guy. Big news. My oncologist just told me that my stage 4 cancer is in remission. Steven, woo! Biggest news. One of the biggest stories of WFO Radio today. That's what matters, is when, the human side. TMZ like drama, and you're saying hush. Yeah, right. What's TMZ? Really, Ricky? I believe that. Drag racers don't know about the outside world. No, there's an outside world where in these magazines, People Magazine, TMZ is like a celebrity news and gossip site. And they've expanded into TMZ Sports. They have their whole sports universe, which is where we fall in sports. Because NHRA drag racing, as much as many of you guys are like, it's not a sport, it's cars. We're playing with cars. But really, we like to call it a sport because people outside of drag racing understand what a sport is. Whereas drag racing, they might not know what it is. So we call ourselves a sport. We're a sport, like the Yankees and the Dolphins. Like, those are sports teams. And if you don't know who those guys are, I can go a little deeper. But in the end, TMZ, go to their Twitter page. You'll see they have 8 million followers, right? Is that a lot? Is it a little? Call it 8 times bigger than the NHRA following, maybe. I don't know. You have to go and check it out. People like that stuff. They love gossip. They love those things. And so when you're on TMZ, that's good. It's a good thing. It's not really a bad thing to be on the air in front of 8 million people, right? Not bad. Top Fuel is going to be stacked again next year. No, it's going to be stacked. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be incredible. See you at church, of course. And let's see. Can't wait for Tony to get pissed and go full smoke on someone. Yeah, that's part of this too. It's all been fun and games because it's been very lighthearted and friendly. Now running for a championship. He ran for a championship last year, but the Lucas Oil Series is a little bit different. It's just different. It's just different than running for a championship in the Mission Food Series. Just different. You can drive the wagon anytime. I don't know. I get worried about driving other people's stuff, Bobby. Ask little Jimmy Stahl trying to get me to drive his dragster. And I'm like, Jimmy, what if it breaks? Then I need to buy 2 engines. Can't afford that. Ant Dog. It's in Hartford's trailer still. The bag you gave me, I couldn't carry it around in Reading. I put it in Hartford's trailer. It's still there. But they got it. Great job, as always, everyone saying, sarcastic Joe, I know, but don't partake. Look. Oh, there's a lot of Joes that y'all don't get to see. That's what Ignition is for. Sarcastic Joe. There can be a mean Joe, but I'm not. Like, I try to generally be positive. I want positivity for everyone. I want us all to grow. I see $1.1 billion for NASCAR, and I think, gosh darn it, our sport is better than that sport. And I've worked there. I worked NASCAR radio. I know a lot of those people. I know what's going on there. I understand it. I love it. I appreciate it. It's amazing. Our stuff is better. Go watch that video of Doug Coletta and Leah on the starting line at the finals and the outcome and the emotion. You can't tell me that we're not worth 10%. But apparently, according to our fans, a lot of stuff isn't even worth a retweet or a share or a like. And a lot of people in the sport, they would much rather spend some energy running down the sport than pumping up the sport, in spite of a potential gimmick, which I get, but it worked. You want them to do more, they do more. You don't want them to do more. You can email me, joe@wforadio.com. Get me on the social. Just wait till the next show. WFO.